Hi, my name is Russ Randall and I want to talk about hydroponic gardening. That's right, hydroponic gardening. I got into this last year. I was looking around the internet and I saw these interesting things about hydroponic gardening. And so I was like, oh, what's that about? I like gardening, and so looked it up and found out, what it was about, and started looking on YouTube and started looking on more websites. And so I said, hey, let's take a shot at it. I'm very much a DIY type of a guy. And so I went out, did my research. It's like, okay, am I going to do these big PVC pipes? The big PVC pipes were stupid expensive. So then I thought, I looked around and said, all right, let's try PVC downspouts. A little bit more affordable. So I tried those, put together the system, got a pump from my old fish tank, used PVC piping to plug everything together. It was basically a 2-run system. It went one downspout went down one side of my porch, the other one came up the other side and dumped back into the reservoir. Hydroponic gardening had begun in my house, and so it was a fun experience. So what are the benefits of hydroponic gardening? Well, one of the things I wanted to do if I was going to get into gardening, I didn't want to take and get down into the dirt. I didn't want to get on my hands and knees anymore. I didn't want to have to deal with weeds. I didn't want to have to deal with hoping and praying that it was going to rain at just the right time, at just the right amount. I didn't want to have to deal with a monstrosity of bugs and insects that just want to take over. So hydroponic gardening just really gives you a little bit more control over the end product, and and so it works out really well. So some of the benefits of hydroponic gardening: you have the ability to control. You always are able to water. You're always watering your plants. There's multiple different types of systems that are out there, but you have an NFT system, you have Kratky systems, you got ebb and flow, you have aquaponics with fish, and a whole bunch of other different types. And so, but you always have the ability to always be, as long as you stay on top of your fluid, your nutrient solution, you're feeding your plants all the time what they need. Your plants grow faster because they're getting what they need all the time. We don't have as many bugs. That's a nice thing. You still have a few bugs that you got to deal with, but you don't have as many. And so it also will fit in a smaller space. I live here in a subdivision in Virginia. And so I don't have a big plot out back that I can take in, but put a bunch of plants in the ground. So, and actually my backyard is actually kind of shaded. And so even though I did my system on the back porch last year, I realized that my light wasn't what I needed to be. So I was able to take and move my system, into my driveway. And so I'm actually here gardening in my driveway. So I think that's pretty cool about it. And so there's a lot of opportunities to do a bunch of different types of plants. So we started out last year. I did lettuce, I did cucumbers, I did green peppers, tried strawberries. That didn't work. Green onions really worked really well. Those are easy peasy to be able to grow. Basil worked out really well. Had some peas and some beans, didn't have enough of those plants in order to make it worth it. But the last year really took and made it something to where I learned a lot from it. And so this year I ramped up my system to where now I have this in the front side of my property. And so I want to take and give you the tour of hydroponic gardening and really give you my journey for hydroponic gardening and see if it might be something that you might be interested in. Like I said, I'm a DIY guy. I feel like I can take just about anything and figure it out and start to do it. And so this is not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. And so it's very doable. And so I want to take you through the whole process. I want to take and show you how the build was created, how I took where I got design thoughts and ideas from. I want to take you into knowing about the plants that I've chosen for this. This is the second year into this, and so there's still a lot for me to learn. You'll be learning about nutrient solution. What do we do? What do we feed? What do we feed our plants? We'll also get into just the pieces that go into the construction part of it. And then also we talk about how things will get into the maturity of the plants as things start out. Everything's small to start out with, but then once it gets into maturity and it starts blossoming and doing all that kind of good stuff, then what do we do there? So let's go on this journey together, and this is going to be a multi-part series that you can take and click on. I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel and just take and come along on the journey. And if you feel like, hey, this isn't too hard, let's join along and go on the journey together. So let's get started. All right, like any good story, we always got to start at the beginning. So let's go back 1 year and let's take a look at, what was my first hydroponic garden? How did it start out? What were the successes? What were the failures that we did with that? So let's jump back 1 year and take a look at that real quick. All right, so we're going back to last year. And so this is a little bit of my setup from last year. And so it's a really simple setup. Like I said, it's basically the two runs of the PVC downspouts. And so down over here, we have a 5-gallon bucket that was holding our nutrient solution. And so we had a pump in here that was pumping up this little way over to here. And then everything was on an incline. And so everything was coming down this pipe over to here and feeding. Let's see, we had green onions over here. We had a bunch of cucumbers right here. We had a strawberry that didn't quite make it. We had some peas and some beans that were kind of weak. Came over to here and then had a pipe come across here, and then we were coming back down here. And so we had some bunch of lettuce types. This one right here worked really well, and come all the way back down here, and then we dump back down into the container, and we do that process all over again. So everything went pretty well with this. One of the things that I just really loved about the whole process was this right here. I was able to take and make my own salads, had my own lettuce, my own cucumbers, my own tomatoes, my own peppers, all the good stuff that would go into my salads. So that was very fulfilling for me to be able to do. So with that, here is one of the lettuce varieties that we had that really bloomed out really well. So like I said, here is the green onions. Green onions, they always needed something to lean on, so we had the little ropes over here for them to grow against. But they're easy to cut and get out and chop them up, put them in your food. Here's just a little close up of these were the cucumbers when they're little baby plants, and strawberry right here. It was a strawberry plant that was in dirt that I bought, and as much as I tried to rinse out all the dirt and all the stuff, it just over the long term it didn't make it. This is a lettuce variety that I was able to use there. But this was a good setup, and I was very happy with it, learned a lot. Being that it was in the backyard, it was really kind of hard to get the light that I wanted to. So here we are later in the season. A lot of changes went on over the summer months. And so I told you that I took and planted some seeds that I got from a bell pepper from Walmart. They sprouted, and so I just started putting them in holes across here. Well, those jokers, they took off. They grew really well, but with the spacing that I had on my pipes, that was great for seedlings and small plants. Wasn't all that great for big plants, and so the peppers, they were a bit crowded, though they did grow well. I did try to thin them out and try to keep them producing fruit, and they did, produce a good amount of peppers. But it was hard for the sun to be able to get to give it the nutrients that it needed there. Plus, all the good cucumber plants that were behind them were really hard to get to, and plus they weren't getting the light that they were needing. And then all of my 2 by 3 inch downspouts, they were just getting clogged up with roots, and then the water and the nutrient fluid was not getting through there really well, and so the pump was pumping in there, and so I was regularly just dumping a lot of nutrient fluid out and had a bunch of leaks. So I learned a lot with the system, but it worked well. up here we have a static Kratky system right here, and I had a bunch of basil, a couple different types of basils, and they were just growing like wildfire, and they were doing really well. So a lot was learned last year, and then I built on it for this year. All right, so that was last year. So it worked out okay. It was a good start. But now I want to show you what I started with this year. And so this is where we ended up with this year. And so I want to take you through the design and the thought and the construction and everything that went into this design this year. It's probably not the perfect system, but it's working out pretty well so far. So let's take a look.